More on this. Phil Coorey, political editor at the Australian Financial Review. So just beginning on the Brittany Higgins situation, other accusers coming forward and the rest of the fallout. The issue for the Liberal Party is there have been reviews, there have been new processes. People came out beforehand and said these won't work. Now they're saying we told you so.
Yeah, they are, but I think this is a little different, this one, in terms of the gravity of the alleged offence. So I suspect this is the wake-up call that's been needed. Look, if you judge by people's reaction, Tom, to this and the unanimity of purpose and the enthusiasm with which Scott Morrison embraced Labor's suggestion for a proper independent review, and then, I don't think that you can question the resolve this time. But as always with this place, proof in the pudding's always in the eating, and the aspect of political management whenever there's a scandal or an incident of this kind can't be discounted. So, will it improve? You'd hope so. I think one of the things too is, without being sort of too selective, is, if you get more women into the place, that's a good way to affect. If you look at the Labor Party, there seems to be less of this sort of stuff associated with the Labor Party in terms of way women are treated and so forth generally, and because they have like 50-50, So I think over time you get more women in, senior women, and that sort of surreptitiously affects the culture, and you sort of gets rid of the blokiness and so forth. The extremes of which can we've seen. So you just sort of, I don't know. I mean, there's no solution to it as such, but it's got to be, it's got to be jumped on.
Is there an inherent issue with accountability when you have now a pretty well-established tradition where someone will get told within an office, be it the Prime Minister, maybe the Leader of the Opposition, and that person knows they won't pass it on to the Prime Minister because, well, then they get in trouble for knowing something and maybe they should have done more. That you've got this arm's length convenience.
This is with the new system they're going to set up. Yeah, well,
what's happened in this, and I know there's claims and counterclaims about what and who knew what within the Prime Minister's office, but as long as they don't pass it on to Scott Morrison...
Plausible deniability.
Yeah,
look, I don't know if that was what happened in this case. I really don't. All I know is what I've read and what I've been told, and it says, Linda Reynolds and Fiona Brown, were sort of aware of what allegedly happened, tried to counsel Miss Higgins. They recommended she go to the police. They set up a meeting with the police. She, for the reason she said, felt she couldn't go through with it because it might cost her her job. Why Linda didn't tell the Prime Minister, maybe she was respecting her confidence. Maybe Brittany had asked her not to say anything to anyone. I don't know. But, that's the bit. Maybe I assume in hindsight, if it happened now, she'd tell him, but she wouldn't say who,
Yeah, you can still go, well, here's the level we're at.
But mate, these things are very vexed on, Look, you look at the situation which had happened, a couple of weeks before the election was going to be called. And that was an election the coalition thought they were going to lose at the time too. So maybe the thought was, don't tell him till afterwards. Who knows? I don't know. We don't know. None of us know.
Scott Morrison, just to move on, got the vaccine yesterday, of course. I feel like he's become the ultimate sort of political Rorschach test. And I guess every, leader is of a certain stripe. So there's an element of that. But I've just never seen someone so polarising, at least on social media. Either like, oh, great stuff, the vaccine's out there, or how dare you get the jab, and you've people accusing him of manhandling the woman next to him because he sort of half hugged her, and it's just incredible that the maybe just the breadth of views. It's more about Twitter. I don't know.
I think it's more about Twitter. Probably haven't seen this sort of John Howard and Julia Gillard had it too, to an extent. People who don't like you just really didn't like you, so it didn't matter what you did, you're evil, right? So I remember once writing Julia Gillard could have cured cancer, and they would have been into her for putting oncologists out of work. And I think that there's an element of that with Morrison, that those people who don't like him, it's visceral.
So I think. What's your theory on then when one news poll is at 50-50? Amongst all of this,
I don't think it's that. No, I don't think it's that at all. No, I mean that's a different thing. It's really interesting. There was a Morgan poll out on Friday which had Labor 50.5, Libs 49.5. So for all intents and purposes, the same as news poll, the same as essential media. And I've heard people say this as well. But Morgan was saying that Labor's vote is surging in the Labor states where there's really popular premiers, WA, Victoria, and Queensland. And the Libs vote's up a bit in New South Wales and South Australia, but not like it is in the Labor states. So what we're seeing is the popularity of the premiers is translating into voting intention, whereas the popularity of the Prime Minister at a national level isn't. So it really is, I think it confirms what they're saying in both the major parties at the moment, is the premiers are seen as the ones who've saved people because they've sort of seen it primarily as a health crisis. And if you look at the Prime Minister's language and even the Treasurer's language since we've been back this year, Tom, they've laid right off the states. So even when one of them does something really, really super populist, like, you know, shuts the entire state down because they've got one case or something, they would have gone from last year. They're not doing it this year. And I think that's the story within.
Yeah, well, that would keep it a lot closer.
Doesn't make it right, but
predicting. Bill Coorey, thank you.
Good on you.